Well, years were absolutely just taken off of my life, but a win is a win. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. So book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. The Detroit Tigers have won a playoff game for the first time in 11 years. The last time they made the postseason, 2014, obviously they were swept by Baltimore. This is the first playoff win for a Tigers team in over a decade. They win 3-1, are now up 1-0 in a best-of-3 series. I was beyond nervous. I did not sit down for pretty much the entire ball game. I felt like I was going to pass out in the ninth inning. That was very, very stressful, just walking around my living room and my kitchen. That was incredible. Now it's incredible. If they blew it, it would have been gut-wrenching. But they didn't, so it's incredible. Torkelson caught a line drive. Here we are, a 3-1 victory. This was such an awesome introduction to the postseason, right? This was the first playoff game in Major League Baseball. Was the Tigers and the Astros, and was that unbelievably intense ninth inning. And I think that that's pretty darn cool, considering, again, that it fell in our favor this time around. What went right in this game? No surprise to anybody. Tarik Skubal dominates. Absolutely dominant. 6 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. He now obviously has a 0 ERA in the postseason. We talked on yesterday's show about how the Astros are really aggressive swingers, right? Like they are very aggressive in the batter's box. They swing it a lot. They make contact with a lot. They don't draw a lot of walks. And early on in this game, first time through the lineup especially, that reared its head. They were incredibly aggressive and first pitch of the game was a fly out to left field from Jose Altuve, right? He's sitting fastball. Tarik drops in a changeup to start off the ball game, and here we go. So I think, first time through the lineup, he dominated with the changeup because of that. They were really aggressive. They were hacking. So he threw the changeup, which is one of the best changeups in baseball. And then toward the end of his outing, they started adjusting, right? Second time and then eventually third time through the lineup, Houston adjusts. They start spitting on that changeup a lot more and kind of just waiting for him to throw the fastball. Well, guess what? You can't wait on a Tarik Skubal fastball. That thing is dang near 100 miles an hour. He threw in a 100-mile-an-hour fastball in the 6th inning. It was miraculous. He was slicing and dicing. The command was fantastic. The only pitch he could not execute command-wise was fastballs up arm side. He was spraying that all over the place. He almost hit a couple of batters to righties. He was way outside. Outside of that, all of his changeups went pretty much where he wanted them, and the fastball was fantastic as well. He threw a 94-mile-an-hour slider at one point in this game. Absolutely dominant. Tarik Skubal is the best pitcher breathing. He is the best pitcher on the planet. And I would have let him go 7, to be honest with you. Now, they got to win. I'm not trying to question a victory here. But and Will Vest was incredible. We'll talk about him in a second. I kind of, in the moment at least, kind of worried that maybe that injury, that was a weird moment there. You had a weird ending to his outing where the trainer went out there on a full count. He had to throw a couple of warm-up pitches. They were looking at, I don't know what, his back, his leg. I'm not really sure, but he finished the outing, looked completely fine, throwing the rest of the outing, walking off the field. Everything looked fine. So we haven't received an update on that at the time of this recording. I'm recording this relatively soon after the ball game ends. So maybe there'll be one the rest of the night or before game 2, or they're just going to play their cards close to their chest and not talk about it until he possibly has to pitch again. So, yeah, he was unbelievable, though. He was unbelievable. The Tigers just won a playoff game, man. Can you even, I can't, I have no clue how this, like, how are we even having this conversation? If you would have told me back in spring training, nonetheless in July or June, that we'd be having this conversation on August 2nd, I would have laughed in your face. I would have laughed in your general direction. I cannot believe we're actually here. The Detroit Tigers are up 1-0 over the Astros in the wild card round. 2 games left to play, possibly, obviously, if necessary. The other big, I think, reason for this win was the bullpen. Like, it's wild how intense this game was and how all the fans were watching this game, and we were like, wow, this is so different than what we've been used to over the last 10 years. This is such a high intensity game. Playoff baseball is just so different. And it's so telling that, for as much as things change, they also stay the same. This game was won exactly how the Tigers have been winning ball games for the last 2 months. It was really good starting pitching, really good bullpen work, and the offense just does just enough. Will Vest was dominant. If Tarik Skubal wasn't Tarik Skubal, we'd be coming on here talking about how Will Vest was the most dominant pitcher on the mound today. 1 2/3 of perfect ball with 4 strikeouts. Only got 5 outs. 4 of them strikeouts. Nobody could touch his fastball. Nobody. He was incredible. Almost going 2 innings is also insanely valuable for this team looking ahead to game 2. Right. And just, I mean, again, he was great. So just his execution of what he was doing on the mound was fantastic. But him giving those innings in such a high intensity moment and for a series where we're going to need as many hands on deck as possible was really, really awesome to see. Tyler Holton does his job, only faces 1 batter, but does his job very, very well. And then Beau Brieske obviously closes the door at the end. My goodness. He goes 2/3 of an inning, no hit ball, the 1 walk, obviously, to load the bases, no earned runs, and he gets the save. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. He really just couldn't get anybody to chase his changeup. Goodness, couldn't talk there. He couldn't get anybody to chase his changeup, and that's his best pitch, and that's a pitch that usually he is going to rely on, and in highest leverage counts, he's going to throw, and it's going to work. And to the Astros' credit, man, for such an aggressive team, they were all over the changeup, did not chase, did not expand the zone. The only one he really fooled somebody with was Jason Hayward. The strike 2 of that count was a changeup, but even that was a changeup outside, right? Kind of a circle change action that moved a little bit toward the outside, more of a horizontal beat than a vertical beat. And he then adjusted and just started throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, 100 miles an hour, like multiple of them. And the broadcasters, who we don't have to have that conversation. I just miss hometown broadcasting in the postseason. I miss it. But anyway, they were blown away by the fact that he was pumping a hundo. He was through multiple of his fastest pitches of the year, and that's what adrenaline in playoff baseball will do to a dude. So unbelievable. The bullpen, it does incredible. We'll talk about Foley, obviously, in a second. I didn't mention him. Had a kind of a rough day, but we'll talk about that. Everybody else that took the mound was phenomenal, and that is what has got the Tigers here. And they kept doing it. And it's really hard to beat a good bullpen in the postseason. That bodes well for a team that's had the best bullpen in baseball in the second half. Let's keep the ball rolling. We got to talk position players. There was a lot of notable performances on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. We will do that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season big with a return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a bunch of middle of the game, I don't know, hunches or anything like that, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and do so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all at FanDuel.com. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. They have so many great offers and deals as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get on action in all sports across 30 states, obviously including your state in Michigan. Actually, not everybody, but over 30 states: California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and obviously Michigan as well. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury resistance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. So many other great offers as well. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shots to everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 of the Wild Card Series, where the Tigers have an opportunity to clinch a spot in the American League Divisional Series for the first time in 10 years. We talked a lot about the pitching in segment 1 because I think that was the hero of this ball game, was the fantastic pitching performance by Skubal as well as a lot of the bullpen, but a lot of really notable performances on the other side of the ball as well. I don't think he's going to be talked about in a national media sense as much as he deserves it. I thought Jake Rogers played the game of his life. He called an incredible game behind home plate, blocked everything, right? Had a couple of men on second and third, 2 outs was one. Ball spiked in the dirt, got in front of it, huge block. The bunt, the defense on that bunt to get the out at first base, incredible. And then at the plate, 2 for 4 with an RBI, opened the scoring in this game. I thought he was miraculous. So I think Jake Rogers deserves a ton of credit. And then really up and down the lineup, man. Tigers had 9 or 10 hits, a couple of walks in there. They were on the bases a lot. They were consistently applying pressure. I can't even believe I'm saying this. They legitimately looked like the better team from start to finish. Won the starting pitching battle, won the bullpen battle, and were consistently on the base paths applying pressure on offense. They looked fantastic. Torkelson had a couple of walks. His first AB was really impressive. Trey Sweeney, 3 strikeouts, but had an RBI. Riley Green with a huge double late there. Also defensively, Riley Green had a great heads-up play in left field. Puts his gloves up, gets the deke to not allow, who was that? Dubon, maybe, to go from first to third, keeps him at second because he makes it look like he's going to get the ball. I thought that was a really heads-up play that inevitably helped Tarik Skubal keep his shutout intact. Justin Malloy makes the roster, hits second, and gets on base twice against one of the best starters in baseball. Matt Vierling on base twice as the leadoff hitter. Andy Ibanez, lefty on the mound. You knew he was going to be in the lineup. Gets a knock. Winfield Perez goes 2 for 5. Great, gritty at-bats like we're used to from him. And then Parker Meadows gets a hit as well. Also goes second to home on a ball, which ended up being a really important run. Everybody was effective. I genuinely think everybody was really well prepared. I think that the coaching staff and the hitting coaches deserve a ton of credit for how this team was prepared against a guy who has been legitimately one of the best starting pitchers in baseball in the second half of the season in Framber Valdez. They knew what they were going to see. They knew they were going to see a lot of sinkers, and they played their lefty lineup, and it worked really well. And the last point I'll make here on what went right was the base running was incredible. And this is something that I know has frustrated Tigers fans a lot at times, this uber aggressive base running and getting thrown on the base paths and whatnot. We saw Matt Bierling get caught stealing in this game when Kerry Carpenter was up and had an opportunity to maybe do something. At the end of the day, like and I know not everybody's analytically inclined in baseball, but like there's a lot of numbers that indicate that the Tigers have legitimately been one of the most effective base running teams in the entire sport this year. And in this game, you saw the aggressive send on Parker scored with ease because he's Parker Meadows and is literally Superman. But you saw a lot of that. Winfield Perez, you know the difference between first and third, right? In an inning versus second and third, absolutely massive. And that's all because of the really aggressive base running. And I thought it was incredibly effective in this ball game. Now, that's a giveth and taketh away kind of thing. I'm sure we'll be frustrated at times because of it. And we know that. We've watched this team 162 times. But in this game, it worked out really, really well for Detroit. What went wrong? Don't have a super long list here. Like I said, I think the Tigers really looked like the best team in most assets and most facets of the game. Jason Foley is where we'll obviously start here. Goes 1/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, no strikeouts. You know, I really think that pulling him for another righty reliever kind of tells you how the coaching staff viewed him in this outing, right? Like it's one thing if they pulled him and it was like, oh, matchup, we're going to go to a lefty here. But they pulled him for just a different righty. And I think that that's pretty telling of what he was offering there. He just still doesn't get swings and misses, man. I'm glad we won because I can say this and not be nervous about like backlash that I would receive saying it. But like I actually don't think he pitched super poorly. Like I think the fan base obviously reacted very negatively, and I completely understand that. It was smooth sailing, but this is still a playoff lineup, and it was shutout ball through 8. They were gonna apply pressure at some point, really. But he's a ground ball pitcher. He is not a swing and miss guy. He does not get strikeouts. He's a ground ball pitcher, and he got ground balls. One was an infield single that Trey Sweeney got to, just couldn't get up off the ground in time and throw Bregman out. And then the other one squeaked through. It was like a 60-mile-an-hour exit velocity to the right side and squeaked through because they were shifted to the left. And a hitter who is very pull happy. And who was that? Caratini? Whoever that was, maybe Diaz. I don't remember who it was up there late, but you know what I mean? Like he's a pull hitter. And so they shifted accordingly, and he just squeaked it, barely dribbled past the right side into the outfield. Like stuff happens when you put the ball in play, and that's why people value strikeouts more than ground balls. And we talked about this a lot yesterday on yesterday's show, right? This is a team that is very aggressive. They put the bat on the ball. They're a contact-heavy team. And I think that the matchup versus Jason Foley didn't really favor that. And that's why I was surprised that they pulled Tyler Holton. I was surprised they went to Foley for the entire ninth. I don't think he looked like worse, quote unquote, than he usually does. This is just a ball in play team in the Astros, and that's a ball in play pitcher. And if it wasn't going to be ground outs, it was going to be seeing eye singles. And that's kind of just what happened. So, I don't think the command was super sharp. I'm not trying to say that he was incredible and just it was all bad luck, but I'm not calling for his head or thinking that his role is going to change going forward because of this either. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's finish the conversation about the offense and then we'll talk stuff. Okay. We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at booking.com, booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Other baseball cities. I know a lot of people that are going to Houston to watch Tigers baseball, and a lot of them using booking.com because they can give you the best hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, so much more all over at booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Houston's a very fun town. I've been a lot. Beautiful ballpark. Minute Maid is as well. And no matter what team you're rooting for, hopefully the Tigers, if you're tuning in to this show, booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So let's just put a bow on the offense here. What went wrong? The offense went 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position in this game and left 11 runners on base. They left them loaded at one point. Parker Meadows with a big strikeout there. Blanco's a heck of a pitcher. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. But like ultimately, like at the end of the day, this is how, again, I'm reiterating the same point from earlier. This is how this team has been winning games all second half. Offense does just enough, gets just enough clutch hits, and the bullpen is incredible, and the pitching wins you the game. I really also don't think anybody had like a full game that was poor at the plate, right? As we mentioned earlier, everybody contributed at some point. It was just wasted opportunities from individual, in a vacuum ABs that ended up being, high leverage runners in scoring position type of situations. But I thought that everybody was prepared and that everybody had pretty competitive at bats. I don't think anybody gave at bats away, really top to bottom, pinch hitters included. This was a really, really good showing by a very young Tigers team against a very good Astros, not only lineup, but pitching staff, right? If we're focusing on the offense, this is a really good Stros bullpen and an even better starting rotation. And Framber has, I think, a sub-2 ERA in the second half or something crazy. You went out there, you got 7 hits off him. Good job, boys. Let's talk stuff. I do want to mention the decision to not let Holton face Yordan Alvarez. They go to Foley. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. Yordan gets the knock there. I think it's tough. I would have left Holton in too. I think that makes sense. I would have done it so, when you face that part in the lineup where it's Tucker, Yordan, no matter if it's presumably the last time they're going to be up, that's when Tyler Holton's going into the game and he's facing both of them. But I don't know. It's kind of tough. I understand you want to use Foley in that situation as well because Yordan hits really well against righties and lefties. I know we're talking about Holton because Holton does really well against lefties, but Yordan tends to crush everybody. So if you're looking at it from Yordan's perspective, it's okay, who has a better chance of keeping the ball in the yard? Foley, you can at least go, okay, it's probably going to be on the ground, even if he does tag something off of Foley. Again, this is all without hindsight. Hindsight would tell you, okay, well, he got a double that he lifted in the air off of Foley anyway. So what are you talking about? So I think I would have preferred Holton there. And again, that's really easy to say looking back on it, knowing what happened. But I wasn't actually as upset as some people were in the moment with the decision. And now that Holton has only faced one hitter, you can use him presumably a lot more here in game 2, which I think is a huge advantage. Rosters. Did not get to talk about rosters yesterday. The Tigers waited until about an hour or two before first pitch to release their postseason rosters. All position players from game 162 made the roster. The 2 gentlemen that were left off from game 162 were Kader Montero and Kenta Maeda. So Justin Henry Malloy obviously made it. If you watch the game, he hit second. Jace Young makes it. Zach McKinstry makes it, etc. Every single position player that ended the season with the Tigers is on the playoff roster. It's only a 2 or 3 game series at most. It's 3 games, right? So I kind of understand. Maeda makes all the sense in the world. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. The somewhat surprising one was Kader Montero. I think that Hinch wants as many hitters to his disposal as possible. And in only what could be at most a 3-game series, you don't need as many pitchers. And the Tigers have the luxury of pretty much all of their pitchers can go multiple innings. So they really don't need as many pitchers. I mean, Will Vest almost threw 2 today, right? Like they have that advantage where pretty much every reliever in their pen it not only can go multiple innings, but has and is used to going multiple innings. So I have no issue with leaving Montero off, right? Like if you're thinking Montero versus Mize, I guess is the one that's somewhat debatable. But like if you're thinking about Montero in a vacuum, like in what situation would you use him, right? I don't, like long inning mop up maybe, but like you're trying to keep every game close. You're trying to limit as many runs as possible. and all of their high leverage relievers can go multiple innings. So I really don't have any issues with it. Mize also weirdly has had some of the best outings of his entire major league career against the Astros, has had multiple. So maybe there's a little bit of matchup ball in play there as well. Let's set the stage here, set the table for the remainder of this series. The Astros used 6 relievers in a loss. Look, this is the playoffs, so these guys won't be like unusable like in the regular season. You're going to empty the gas tank because if you don't, there is no tomorrow. But there is, I guess, a chance that they're less effective or worn down, whatever. There's also a chance that they're not, and they're professionals and are used to pitching back-to-back days, and they're going to be great as always. But I do think that that's worth noting. I think Blanco going multiple innings was important for the Astros as well. Their multiple innings almost blew it open there. 3 walks in 2 innings isn't great, but I think that was really important for Houston because they have a couple of starters that will be in bullpen roles, so they can at least limit some of it and some of the usage there with him going multiple. I would be shocked if Kikuchi didn't get a look at some point, either in game 2 or if there is a game 3 in game 3 out of the bullpen. I think their starters are pretty much set, but Kikuchi's been really good for them. I know he struggled in the first half of the season there, and people were kind of surprised at the trade deadline. He's been really good for Houston, and he's a lefty, and he throws hard. I would be shocked if the Tigers didn't see him for multiple innings. Honestly, probably in game 2, so we'll keep an eye out for that. The starting pitchers in game 2, this is subject to change. Neither of them have been officially declared by the team, but they've both been heavily hinted at by both organizations. So we're going to go under the presumption that Reese Olson and Hunter Brown is going to be the starting pitching matchup here in game 2. This is the start of chaos ball, right? The AJ Hinch quote was Tarik Skubal's going game 1, and then it's pitching chaos the rest of the series. This is the start of that. So we talked earlier, Holton decision. I think you're going to see Holton pitch a lot more in this game, especially, again, like their best hitters are lefties. And like Altuve, that's not disrespect to Altuve and Bregman. Very good hitters. People want Bregman on the Tigers next year, right? But their 2 best hitters, objectively, 1 and 2, are lefties. I would imagine that Holton is going to get used in that situation late in ball games quite a lot, and he can get righties out as well. So you can leave him out there for an Altuve or a Bregman or both. So I'd expect him to get a lot more work in this game if it's close. I also don't think that Olsen is probably going to go very long. I think that you're probably going to see Reese Olson go 2 times through the lineup, 1 or 2 times, 3 to 4, maybe 5 innings. But I think they're going to play matchup ball really heavily from here on out. I think Skubal is really the only one on this team that hinges like, you know what, matchups be darned, you're going 6 or 7 no matter what. Everybody else, he's going to play matchups really heavily, especially up 1-0. He's not going to mess around. If they have any chance to step on the Astros' neck and take a win here, they're going to do it. So I expect Reese Olson to have an unbelievably short leash. Tigers won a playoff game on Tuesday. It's unbelievable. I tweet out before every playoff game, post, whatever it's called, roll call, right? Where are you checking in from? And there are Tigers fans all over the globe, man. So many that are in Houston that replied to it. Got some replies from Australia, from South America. Just like all over the world, a lot from Europe. It's just really, really, really cool to see, 10 years in the making, 10 years of just terrible baseball. And now not only are they making the postseason, they're winning playoff games. And we all get to experience it together. Technology's okay sometimes. Playoff victory. I just want to keep repeating that over and over again. The Tigers won a playoff game today. Absolutely unbelievable. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to every dayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 against the Houston Astros. Man, love y'all and appreciate y'all. Let's have some fun. Let's keep this thing rolling. Remember to breathe while you're watching. Deep breaths, okay? Not short, pants. Deep breaths. Remember, what my therapist always says, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Deep, calming breaths. We'll get through these tense games together. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.